Imagine heading out to fish for tuna and other sea creatures only to end up as prey for a shark, or enjoying a holiday swim in the ocean only to spot a massive fin circling you, preparing to strike. One swimmer had their head bitten off in a horrifying attack, while another vanished completely after being dragged underwater. In one tragic instance, a woman was attacked by multiple sharks as her mother helplessly watched. In another, bystanders looked on in terror as a swimmer was fatally attacked. These are the chilling final moments captured in the last haunting videos of people eaten alive by sharks. Vernon Berry. It was Monday, December 23rd, 1957. The festive season was in full swing at a popular beach near Margate, South Africa. Over 200 people had gathered to enjoy the holidays. Among them was 23-year-old Vernon James Berry, visiting from Zimbabwe with two friends. Like everyone else, Vernon was there to relax, unwind, and soak up the fun. But danger was closer than anyone wanted to admit. Two large sharks had been spotted in the area days before, sending fear rippling through the swimming and surfing community. Warnings were issued, but the ocean's pull was hard to resist. On December 24th, Vernon and his friends joined the crowds at the beach, determined not to let fear ruin their vacation. Then, the unthinkable happened. As people splashed and laughed in the water, a shark appeared. Panic spread like wildfire as swimmers frantically rushed to shore. But Vernon wasn't fast enough. The shark zeroed in on him with terrifying precision. In a vicious attack, the shark tore into Vernon, breaking his right arm and stripping it of flesh. The water turned red, a horrifying sign of what was happening beneath the surface. The predator dragged him under, where the brutality continued. Vernon's left hand was severed, and his lower body suffered multiple savage bites. Despite his catastrophic injuries, Vernon was still conscious when rescuers pulled him from the water. He fought to stay alive, but the damage was too great. On the way to the hospital, Vernon passed away. His death became one of the darkest moments of the infamous Black December, a month marked by a horrifying wave of shark attacks in South Africa. Should Vernon have stayed out of the water after the shark warnings? Maybe he would have lived to tell the tale. His tragic story is a haunting reminder of the risks that come with ignoring danger. Our next story takes us from the festive beaches of December to the sunny streets of Egypt in June, where a tiger shark turned a peaceful day into a nightmare. Vladimir Popov. On June 8, 2023, a peaceful day on Egypt's Red Sea coast took a devastating turn. Vladimir Popov, a 23-year-old enjoying a swim near a resort in Hurghada, found himself in a life-or-death struggle when a tiger shark attacked him. The shark struck without warning, dragging Vladimir beneath the waves. He fought desperately to escape, but in the predator's natural domain, he stood little chance. From the shore, his father and other onlookers could only watch in shock and helplessness, some even recording the horrifying scene on video. The struggle was intense, but tragically short. Vladimir's life was taken in a moment of sheer terror and helplessness. In response, the tiger shark was caught and killed, and the beach was temporarily closed. However, these actions brought little comfort to a grieving father who witnessed his son's final moments, or to those questioning the safety of the waters. As heartbreaking as Vladimir's story is, Linda Horton also faced a similar tragic end, falling victim to one of the ocean's most feared predators, the tiger shark. Linda Horton. In 1983, Linda Horton went on what was supposed to be a normal fishing trip on a prawn trawler. She was joined by her crewmates, Ray and Denise, and their plan was simple: fish at night when the waters were busy with life and rest during the day. For the first 2 days, everything went smoothly. The crew worked hard, shared some laughs, and stayed optimistic. But on the third day, things took a turn for the worse. A storm rolled in, bringing strong winds and massive waves that rocked the boat. The crew decided to stay and face the storm, hoping it would pass. Instead, the waves grew stronger until one giant surge flipped the boat over completely. Now stranded in the middle of the ocean, they weren't just worried about being rescued, they had to figure out how to survive. The nearest shore was 45 kilometers away, far too far to swim. With no other choice, the group managed to piece together a small raft from what they could find and started paddling, their hearts heavy with fear. As the hours dragged on and night fell, their nightmare got worse. A tiger shark appeared, its sharp fins slicing through the water. Ray saw it first and shouted a warning, but there wasn't much they could do. The shark attacked Ray first, hitting him with incredible force. He fought back as best as he could, kicking hard enough to drive it away for the moment, but he was hurt. The group knew the shark would be back. The next attack came quickly. This time, the shark went for Linda. She was clinging to a lifebuoy when the shark dragged her away, thrashing violently. Her crewmates could only watch helplessly as Linda lost her life to the relentless predator. Linda's tragic death and the survival of her crewmates inspired the 2010 thriller The Reef, which retold the horrifying events of their fight to survive. This haunting story is a reminder of how unpredictable and dangerous the ocean can be. While Linda's cooking couldn't save her from the shark, stick around for our next story, where even Steve's swimming skills weren't enough to keep him safe. Steve Robles. On July 5, 2014, Steve Robles, an experienced open-water swimmer and former Los Angeles County lifeguard, was attacked by a 7-foot great white shark near Manhattan Beach, California. The shark had been agitated for about 30 minutes after being hooked by a fisherman who didn't cut the line as required by law. Robles was swimming with a group on a 2-mile course when he accidentally got too close to the distressed shark, which bit him on the chest and side. Despite the severity of the attack, Robles stayed conscious and was able to pry the shark's jaws open enough to break free. He was subsequently rescued and transported to a hospital. Robles sustained puncture wounds and lacerations, but his injuries were not life-threatening. Robles later said he survived thanks to quick thinking, help from those around him, and his faith. As a result of the attack, temporary restrictions on swimming and fishing were put in place as a precaution. Robles had previously gained attention for completing a tough 21-mile swim from Catalina Island to the mainland, proving his strength and determination as a swimmer. Now, let's move to another harrowing story, this time from the serene waters of the Bahamas. Jordan Lindsay. In June 2019, Jordan Lindsay and her mother went snorkeling near Rose Island in the Bahamas. What started as a peaceful adventure quickly turned into a nightmare. Jordan was attacked by multiple sharks while exploring the water. The first shark struck out of nowhere, tearing off her right arm and causing severe injuries to her legs and torso. Despite the pain, Jordan tried to swim to safety. As she struggled to reach her mother, she yelled, "Mom, there's another shark coming!" just before the second shark attacked, ripping off her lower leg. The water became a scene of chaos as Jordan went into shock from her injuries. Her mother, Cami, fought back by punching the sharks and managed to pull Jordan onto some nearby rocks. A tour boat arrived and rushed them back to shore, but tragically, Jordan was pronounced dead at a hospital in Nassau. After the tragedy, the Lindsay family spoke out, criticizing the tour company for not having proper safety measures in place and calling for better protection for tourists. From the Bahamas, we head to December 2010 for a tragic tale of loss that spanned continents. Michael Loxton. December 2010, Sam Loxton faced a tragedy no one could ever prepare for. In just 15 minutes, he lost both his wife and son in ways that were hard to imagine. The day started like any other, but everything changed when Sam found his wife drowned in the family pool. Devastated by the loss, he couldn't have known that things were about to get even worse. While Sam was mourning, his son Michael was on a vacation in Fiji, enjoying time on a private boat. Michael, unaware of the heartbreak back home, decided to go for a swim in the ocean while his wife rested below deck. Confident in his swimming skills, he went further from the boat than he realized. What he didn't know was that a 6-foot bull shark had been tracking him, drawn by the splash of his dive. It's unclear whether the shark's attack was by chance or because it was hungry, but either way, it was a cruel twist of fate. As Michael tried to swim back to the boat, the shark struck. It grabbed onto his thigh, lifting him out of the water before dragging him under. The shark shook him violently, tearing off his leg in the process. Michael screamed in pain, and the water around him turned red with blood. On the boat, an attendant, who didn't know much about operating the vessel, noticed the struggle and jumped into the water to help. He pulled Michael from the bloodied water and rushed him back on board. Sadly, Michael had already lost too much blood and passed away. His family, still reeling from the loss of his mother, received the devastating news about his death. In the midst of their grief, some have wondered if telling Michael about his mother's passing sooner could have saved his life, but that question remains unanswered. The pain of losing both mother and son in such a short time has left a deep scar that is hard to heal. Next, we travel to Maui, Hawaii, where a young woman's snorkeling trip ended in heartbreak. Jana Luterop. On August 14, 2013, 20-year-old Jana Luterop was snorkeling at Palauea Beach in Maui, Hawaii, when the unthinkable happened. While she was enjoying the warm, clear water, a shark suddenly attacked, tearing off her right arm in one swift strike. Jana fought back, but her screams went unheard above the water. On the shore, a California teacher who had been watching saw what happened and immediately rushed into the water. Without hesitation, he fought through the waves and the danger to reach Jana, pulling her to safety, despite the shark still being nearby. Jana was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support, but the loss of blood and the trauma from the attack were too much for her body to handle. On August 21st, just a week later, she passed away from her injuries. Her death left her family, friends, and the Maui community heartbroken. Shifting from Hawaii's tropical shores to California's rugged coastline, we revisit a chilling attack that stunned La Jolla Cove. Robert Pamparin. On Sunday, June 14, 1959, 33-year-old Robert Pamparin, along with his companion Gerald Lera, was free diving for abalone in the clear waters of La Jolla Cove, California. The weather was mild, but what started as a routine dive would soon turn into a tragedy. At about 5 p.m., the two men were about 30 feet apart when Lera heard Pamparin's desperate cry for help. When he turned around, he saw his friend's body unnaturally high out of the water, missing his dive mask. Below the surface, Pamparin was thrashing in the jaws of a 20 20-foot great white shark. The shark had grabbed hold of Pamparin's lower half and dragged him beneath the waves in a cloud of red. Lara dove in to help, initially mistaking the shark for an orca, but saw the shark jerking its head in an attempt to swallow or spit out Pamparin. Realizing his attempts to help were futile, Lara swam to shore to alert lifeguards. A rescue effort was launched, involving 10 divers who spent hours searching for Pamparin's body, but it was to no avail. A helicopter later spotted Pamparin's blue swim fin floating on the water's surface, along with the body of a dead pinniped, but the shark was nowhere to be seen. Several hours later, Pamparin's burlap sack containing 2 abalone washed ashore, adding to the grim scene. The shark's attack was believed to have been triggered by blood in the water from a whale carcass that had washed ashore the night before. A year later, in November 1960, a group of geologists from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography found a skeleton that matched Pamparin's profile 650 yards off the coast, confirming the tragic fate of the diver. Next, we look into a tragic honeymoon in paradise that became a nightmare in the Seychelles. Ian Redmond. Ian Redmond's honeymoon in the Seychelles tragically turned into a nightmare on August 20, 2013, while swimming in the calm waters off Anse Lazio Beach on Praslin Island. The 30-year-old, who had married Gemma Houghton just 2 weeks earlier, was attacked by a shark while his wife sunbathed on the shore. Witnesses reported seeing Redmond with a massive chunk of flesh missing from his left leg, exposing the bone of his thigh. Despite still wearing his swim flippers, he appeared pale and in shock. The attack was sudden, and by the time he was pulled ashore by a nearby boat, his injuries were too severe to survive. He was rushed to a hospital but succumbed to blood loss shortly afterward. His wife, Gemma, was left devastated, unable to do anything as she watched her husband perish. The tragedy drew attention to the risks even in tourist-friendly destinations like the Seychelles, which has seen a rise in honeymooners and European tourists. Now, let's move from the Seychelles to the Pacific Northwest, where Randall Fry's love for the outdoors brought him face-to-face with danger beneath the waves. Randall Fry. On a quiet Sunday in August, Randy Fry set out to do what he loved most, diving for abalone along California's beautiful Mendocino coast. The ocean had always been his passion, his peaceful place, but that day, it became the place where he lost his life. Randy wasn't just an experienced diver. To his friends, he was an advocate for the ocean, organizing fishing trips, supporting recreational fishing, and spending countless hours promoting the waters he cared so much about. The night before his dive, Randy stayed at his friend Cliff Zimmerman's house near Fort Bragg. Tucked away among the redwoods and close to Highway 1, the house echoed with the sound of the surf. Randy fell asleep to the peaceful rhythm of the waves, unaware of the tragedy waiting for him the next day. It was a perfect day for diving. The water was calm and the sun was shining. Randy and Cliff, both seasoned divers, were floating above a thick kelp bed. The ocean sparkled beneath them, peaceful and calm, until it wasn't. As Randy took a deep breath and began his descent, everything seemed normal, but in a flash, everything changed. Cliff later said, "It was the most dramatic thing I've ever seen in my life. It happened so fast, it didn't seem real. Without warning, a great white shark attacked with terrifying speed. The shark's jaws struck Randy with such force that it severed his head instantly, leaving Cliff in stunned disbelief. Cliff, just a few feet away, heard the explosion of water and saw the aftermath, the ocean turning red. He was lucky to escape unharmed, but Randy was gone in an instant. The next day, Randy's body was recovered. It was a tragic end to a life that had been devoted to the ocean. Long before Randall's story, the first recorded fatal shark attack in California took the life of Barry Wilson, a tale that would forever mark the state's history. Barry Wilson, Lovers Point in Pacific Grove, is known for its stunning beauty, but on one tragic day in 1952, it became the site of a horrifying event. Barry Wilson, a 17-year-old with a bright future, was swimming in the waters off Lovers Point with a friend. They were enjoying the ocean, unaware of the danger lurking below the surface. Suddenly, Barry cried out, and a shark appeared, breaking the surface with a flash of grey. Before anyone could react, the shark struck. Barry fought desperately, but the shark's powerful jaws caused severe injuries. Blood quickly stained the water, and his cries echoed across the beach, leaving witnesses helpless. A small group of rescuers, including Barry's friend, rushed into the water, but the shark circled them, making the rescue attempt all the more perilous. For over 20 minutes, they battled against the clock, trying to get Barry back to shore. Despite their efforts, Barry's injuries were too severe. By the time they reached the beach, he had passed away. Barry Wilson became the first recorded shark attack fatality in California's history. His death was a grim reminder of the ocean's dangerous side, turning what should have been a day of fun into one of unimaginable sorrow. For his family, the loss left a permanent, painful void. Years later, on a different continent, Lloyd Skinner faced a similarly grim fate while enjoying the waters of Fish Hoek Beach in South Africa. Lloyd Skinner. Fish Hoek Beach in Cape Town, once a peaceful and popular holiday spot known for its beautiful ocean, became the scene of a horrifying tragedy on a day in 2010. Lloyd Skinner, a 37-year-old man from Zimbabwe living in the Democratic Republic of Congo, was enjoying a quiet afternoon in the water. As he stood chest deep, adjusting his goggles, he had no idea that a terrifying encounter was about to unfold. Witnesses on the beach saw a large shadow moving beneath the surface. A massive great white shark, larger than a minibus, appeared, circling twice before launching a sudden attack. Within moments, the shark dragged Lloyd underwater. Panic spread as screams filled the air, and a dark pool of blood began to form in the water. The only trace of Lloyd left behind was his diving goggles. "We just saw a gigantic shark attack what looked like a person right in front of our house," tweeted Greg Coppen. "That shark was huge, like dinosaur huge." British tourist Phyllis McCartan recalled, "We saw the shark come back twice. It had the man's body in its mouth and his arm was in the air. Then the sea was full of blood." Earlier that day, Cape Town's disaster management services had warned swimmers of shark sightings in the area. However, because there was no shark flag raised, many were unaware of the danger lurking beneath the surface. This fear became all too real again with the loss of David Lilienfeld, a celebrated bodyboarder whose skill couldn't shield him from the sea's greatest predator. David Lilienfeld, South Africa, a land where the ocean and the surf are as much a part of the culture as the sun-drenched shores. The sea was his sanctuary for 20-year-old David Lilienfeld, a champion bodyboarder. But on this fateful day, the very waves he loved would become the scene of his brutal demise. David had spent his day riding waves with his brother, Gustav, in the water. Both seasoned surfers, they shared a bond stronger than blood. Each wave a test of skill, each ride a victory. But the ocean, unpredictable and dangerous, held a deadly secret beneath its surface. Out of nowhere, a great white shark struck. With brutal force, it hit David 3 times. The shark's immense power threw him from his board, leaving him vulnerable in the water. Blood clouded the ocean as the predator attacked again. In a desperate attempt to fight back, David used his bodyboard as a weapon, trying to push the shark away, but it was futile. The shark wasn't done. It circled again, then struck, severing David's right leg. People on the shore, seeing the blood and chaos, scrambled to call for help, but the ocean had already claimed its prize. David had lost too much blood. Despite the valiant rescue efforts, it was too late. The bodyboarder was gone. The brother wanted to go in and help, but he couldn't because the shark still had his brother. The second time the shark took him, it took the boy down with him, a bystander said. Minutes later, David's lifeless body surfaced. The waves had carried him to the rocks. What was once a young man full of life, dreams, and passion was now a tragic reminder of the ocean's untamed power. "I'm still shaking. 6 hours later. I felt so helpless. I can still hear him shouting for help." The ocean claimed yet another life in Terence Manuel, an abalone diver who ventured into waters that became his final resting place. Terence Manuel, January 9th, 1974. A perfect day for diving. The waters of Streaky Bay seemed peaceful, calm, inviting, and full of life. But beneath the surface, an unimaginable horror was waiting. Terence Manuel, a 26-year-old abalone diver, had been exploring the depths off the coast of South Australia, about 137 meters from the shore. He was there with his partner, John Talbot, both experienced divers on what should have been a routine dive. But in the water that day was a predator, a 10-foot great white shark. Its hunger was swift, its attack merciless. As Terry attempted to climb back into the boat, the shark struck, its powerful jaws tearing into his right leg above the thigh. John Talbot, his friend and diving partner, fought desperately to pull Terry aboard, but the shark kept tugging at him, refusing to release its hold. In a brutal flash, the shark severed Terry's leg, and with it, his chance for survival. His arm was badly injured between the elbow and wrist, and gashes marked his back, signs of a battle that ended far too soon. Despite their best efforts, Terry's wounds were too severe, the blood loss was too great. As John struggled to save his friend, the ocean had already claimed its prize. The shark that attacked Terry was not an isolated threat. It was later confirmed that this very shark had been involved in the death of another abalone diver in South Australia, a shadow in the depths, lurking close to the shore. The very predator that had taken Terry's life stayed in the area, haunting the waters the following day. The shark, responsible for this horrific attack, was caught the very next day. Its jaws, now sealed in a grim reminder of the violence beneath the surface, revealed the full extent of the terror it had wrought. Terence's story is one of courage and tragedy, but few accounts rival the horror of what happened to Shirley Ann Durden. Shirley Ann Durden, March 3, 1985. The tranquil waters of Peak Bay near Port Lincoln, South Australia, were meant to offer a peaceful day for Shirley Ann Durden, a 33-year-old mother of 4. But this day would forever be etched in the memories of those who loved her and in the history of shark attacks in Australia. Shirley, in the shallow waters, just 7 feet deep, was snorkeling alongside her family. The calmness of the bay, the gentle waves. It was a scene of tranquility until the unimaginable struck. Without warning, a great white shark, between 14 and 19 feet in length, emerged from the depths. The predator's speed was overwhelming, and in an instant, the serenity of the bay turned to chaos. The attack was swift. Shirley was dragged beneath the surface, the shark's powerful jaws taking hold. Her family, helpless on the shore, watched in horror as the predator tore into her. In those final moments, they could do nothing but watch. The shark continued its brutal assault, and tragically, all of Shirley's bodily remains were taken. Nothing was left behind, a horror that would haunt her family forever. From the serene yet tragic waters of Peak Bay, we travel back in time to 1852, where the story of Charles Chambers unfolds in the perilous seas off Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Charles Chambers, 1852. In 1852, the waters off Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, were the scene of a tragedy that would be remembered for its brutality and mystery. Charles Chambers, a man whose name would echo in history as one of the few recorded shark fatalities of that era, lost his life in the most tragic of circumstances. Chambers' vessel had capsized, leaving him stranded in the open water. Alone, struggling to reach the shore, he waded through the surf, unaware of the silent predator lurking just below the surface. As he neared the shore, a shadow emerged from the depths, a shark, its eyes cold and merciless. Without warning, it struck, pulling Charles Chambers into the abyss. In an instant, the sea took him. The predator, swift and relentless, ended his life before he could even reach safety. His final moments were marked by the terror of the unknown, the silent killer from beneath. The species of shark responsible remains unconfirmed, a haunting uncertainty that only adds to the mystery of that day. What is certain is the loss of a life, taken in the cruelest of ways, a man forever lost to the ocean he was trying to escape. As haunting as Charles Chambers' fate was, let's now step back 1 year earlier to March 1851 in Honolulu Harbor, where James Kinney became a victim of one of Hawaii's earliest recorded shark attacks. James Kinney, 1851. March 1851. Honolulu Harbor, a place of beauty and tranquility, was the site of one of the earliest recorded shark fatalities in Hawaii. James Kinney, a man who had come to enjoy the warm waters of the Pacific, would never leave them alive. Kinney was swimming in the harbor that fateful day when, without warning, a predator emerged from the depths. It was swift and merciless. While reports at the time attributed the attack to a tiger shark, the specific species remained unconfirmed, leaving a haunting uncertainty. In an instant, James Kinney's life was taken by the very ocean he sought to enjoy. The shark's attack was brutal, its force overwhelming. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Kinney had already succumbed to his injuries, his body lost to the depths. The attack was documented in local publications, marking it as a tragic milestone in Hawaii's history, a reminder that the waters, so inviting on the surface, could hide unimaginable danger just below. James Kinney's death was one of the earliest recorded fatalities in a place that would later become infamous for its shark attacks. Yet, it was not just an isolated event, it was a warning, a stark reminder that the sea, with all its beauty, is not always as safe as it seems. That concludes our dive into some of the most chilling footage of shark attacks. If you're fascinated by stories like these, don't forget to check out the suggested cards on your screen. We'll catch you in the next one.